Hello and welcome to the viewers of this video. This is the Orange Fan here, bringing you another entry for the episode Recap and Thoughts category. This video will be dedicated to episode 5 of Young Justice, Schooled. We begin this episode in Metropolis on August 3rd, where a suspension bridge starts to fall apart, putting everyone in the vehicles on the bridge at the moment in danger. We see that Wayne Enterprises has a Metropolis branch, and Bruce Wayne happens to be in that particular building when this crisis happens. Bruce prepares to get his bat suit, but then he sees Superman arrive on the scene, and it looks like the Man of Steel has everything under control. Soon enough, Superboy joins in to help, but his landing and the way he's lifting up the vehicles leaves a lot to be desired, to say the least. While Superboy has no trouble lifting up a car, he has more difficulty lifting up a school bus, and Superman ends up helping him, which frustrates Superboy, who insists that he had it. Superman responds that he didn't want to take the risk, and he also points out that Superboy's landing could have destabilized the bridge, even though it didn't, recognizing that they don't know the full extent or limitations of Superboy's abilities. Superboy takes this chance to say he's hoping that Superman can help him figure this out, but Superman responds that Batman is already taking care of that particular objective. Before Superboy can press the topic any further, Superman receives a call from Green Arrow through the communicator, and it sounds like Green Arrow needs help with some other crisis. Superman takes the time to leave to help Green Arrow. His only other response to Superboy is that duty calls. Bruce contacts Superman soon after, and although Superman thinks Bruce is contacting him about what Green Arrow contacted him about, Bruce clarifies that they need to talk about something else later. Later on, Superboy returns to Mount Justice via Zetatube technology, and his teammates can tell that his trip in Metropolis didn't go very well. Not long after, Black Canary and Martian Manhunter arrive into the cave as well. Martian Manhunter says he was in the area and he thought he'd see how his niece is doing, while Black Canary is there to fulfill her duty as the trainer of the Young Justice team. And for this particular lesson, Black Canary is hoping to teach the Young Justice team about acting rather than reacting, saying that will help give them an advantage over their opponents, which she demonstrates when she defeats Kid Flash in a sparring match. Superboy isn't impressed though, saying that his abilities mean that he always has the advantage. Black Canary's response to Superboy is to prove it, and she ends up defeating Superboy very easily in a sparring match. This angers Superboy, who says he wants no part in this anymore. Black Canary responds that training is mandatory, but before the argument can go any further, Batman contacts the cave, letting everyone inside know that there's another mission for the Young Justice team. The crisis that Green Arrow called Superman about is revealed to be they had to deal with an android that has the ability to copy the abilities of its opponents after observing their opponent's abilities. And it's believed that the android was created by Professor Ivo, someone who was previously believed to be dead beforehand. Green Arrow requesting help dealing with the android ended up backfiring because more Justice League members meant more abilities for the android to copy, thus making the android more powerful. In the end, it took 8 members of the Justice League 4 hours to finally disassemble the android, and the android is being taken to Star Labs to study. But in order to prevent the android from being reassembled, the android's parts are going to be separated, so they'll be sent to 2 different facilities. And to make sure that Professor Ivo, or anyone else for that matter, doesn't try to reassemble the android, there are 4 extra trucks that are going to head to Star Labs as well in order to distract and, cause confusion for anyone who wants to try and reassemble the android. The Injustice team are tasked with guarding the trucks that contain the parts of the androids. So with that all settled, we then cut to where all the Star Lab trucks are, and the mission is underway. Robin and Superboy guard one truck together, while the remaining 3 team members guard the other truck. And Batman makes a point to tell Superman that they still need to talk about something. While they're following along with one of the trucks, Superboy rants about how Black Canary is trying to teach people with powers like him. Robin responds, though, that Black Canary had to learn how to fight the good fight the hard way, something that Batman and he himself, as in Robin, had to learn the hard way as well. Suddenly, for both the trucks that are being guarded, the trucks that have the parts of the androids in them, they're suddenly attacked by a group of robotic monkeys, which Robin easily pieces together are also creations of Professor Ivo. Despite everyone's best efforts, the robotic monkeys do succeed in claiming the parts of the android and flying off with the parts. Superboy, enraged about this, also chases after the monkeys and claims he doesn't want any help, leaving his communicator behind so they can't track him. Fortunately, though, Robin is able to hack into one of the broken robotic monkeys that he fought not too long ago, and he figures out that the robotic monkeys knew which trucks had the android parts in them because the android parts have GPS. And thanks to hacking the monkey, Robin can now access this GPS as well. And he sees that the android parts are heading for a train that's currently in Gotham City. And he's on his way there to try and stop the pieces from being assembled and to help Superboy. Aqualad recognizes that he and Miss Martian won't be able to get there until a significant amount of time, so he sends Kid Flash ahead to meet up with Robin so they can both help Superboy. Meanwhile, in a diner in Metropolis, Clark Kent and Bruce Wayne meet up for dessert. Clark Kent wants the apple pie, Bruce Wayne wants the devil's food. And Clark figures that Bruce wanted to meet him for something important. Bruce cuts to the chase that he wants Clark to help out with Superboy, saying that Superboy needs him. But Clark denies this, or declines this request, saying that he is just a continuous reminder of what Superboy isn't. But Bruce responds that while he understands that Clark is troubled by Superboy's existence, Clark has to get over how and why Superboy exists because he exists now, and tries to insist that Superboy needs his father, which angers Clark, who declares himself as not. Yes, Clark declares he isn't Superboy's father, and he decides to just take the apple pie with him to go. And Bruce is frustrated at Clark's stubbornness. We soon see Superboy follow the monkeys to the train in Gotham City, where he meets Professor Ivo, but he's too late. Professor Ivo has reassembled the android, who is revealed to have the name Amazo. And true enough, Amazo does have the abilities of the Justice League members that he fought, although he can only access the powers one at a time. He has to say access and then the name of the Justice League member whose abilities he's copying in order to activate his copied abilities. But in any case, Amazo easily is able to take care of Superboy easily and knocks him into a building in Gotham, which Robin, through the GPS, recognizes as his school. Amazo's fight with Superboy eventually leads into the gym of the school, where Professor Ivo and more of his monkeys are watching in the bleachers. Ivo admits he usually doesn't watch these battles, but he thought this was too good of a spectacle to pass up the chance to see. And eventually, Robin and Kid Flash arrive to help Superboy out, but they're having difficulty with Amazo having copied the abilities of many Justice League members. Ivo also comments that normally Amazo would take the time to copy their abilities after observing them as well, but he thinks there's no point in it since he believes the Young Justice team to be inferior imitations of the Justice League. During the fight, an arrow is aimed at Amazo, but he phases through it thanks to Martian Manhunter's abilities. And when Amazo copies Black Canary's abilities at one point, this reminds Superboy of Black Canary's teachings, and eventually he's able to he plays up his anger in order to get the best of Amazo, or he's trying to attack Ivo, figuring that Amazo would or Ivo would have Amazo's main objective to be to protect him, Professor Ivo, and Robin and Kid Flash help out as well. Eventually, during the commotion, Amazo copies Martian Manhunter's phasing ability, but Superboy is able to put his fist where Amazo's head would be. So when Amazo's phasing is complete, Superboy's fist is in Amazo's head, so Amazo's head blows up. Thus, they're able to stop Amazo. And Aqualad and Miss Martian arrive right after, and Aqualad says they don't want to take any chances and that they need to disassemble Amazo right away. But Ivo managed to escape during the confusion. Later on, we cut back to Mount Justice, and it's August 4th now, where several of the Justice League members are praising the Young Justice team for being able to take care of Amazo and to get the parts of the android to the two facilities, the two Star Lab facilities, and saying that the Justice League will take care of finding Professor Ivo. Batman also comments that there's nothing wrong with requesting help from the Justice League, but Robin points out the arrow that happened during the fight with Amazo, saying that they figured that the Justice League was following them, but Green Arrow reveals that his arrowhead looks different from the arrowhead of the arrow that helped them out. This leads them to thinking that, or the Young Justice team think that Speedy was the one who helped them out, but Batman and Green Arrow look at each other silently, indicating that they don't think it was Speedy. And the episode ends with Superboy going to Black Canary, saying that he's ready for more training from her. Now, following along with Greg Weisman's statements about how episodes 3 through 8 would focus on a particular member of the Justice League, the Young Justice team, pardon me. Episodes 3 through 8 were said to focus on the spotlight for a member of the Young Justice team, as helping to introduce them or help the audience get to know them better after the team was formed. And in this case, it would be Superboy as the spotlight character. And particularly, they're dealing with his anger issues, which mostly are a result of Superman not wanting any part of helping him out. And speaking of Superman, that was something that really a lot of people were contested about with Young Justice, or there was a lot of disagreements about how Superman acted around Superboy during season 1 of Young Justice. And the thing is, while it's understandable, like Greg Weisman had mentioned that the intention was to portray Superman in a more human light. And yeah, while Superman isn't actually human, he is raised like a human, which, yeah, so I get where he's going with. And the point was meant to show Superman's flaws, because some people may complain that Superman is too perfect, although in more modern stories, Superman tends to be portrayed with more flaws, and while still overall a good hero, or a good person overall still, even with his flaws. And that's kind of where where the disagreements lie about with Superman and how he acted around Superboy. Now, they weren't trying to say that it was a good thing that Superman acted the way he did, but they were also saying that Bruce's comments that Superboy needed his father was meant to show how Bruce didn't handle, or how Bruce was in the wrong about it, I believe. But the thing was, people actually felt Bruce had a valid point. Now, yeah, it's understandable. My own thoughts about Superman, the whole Superman thing in Young Justice, yeah, I feel like Superman came off as more unsympathetic than they intended. Like, I see what they were trying to go for, but I don't think it landed quite as well. And Superman came off as really unsympathetic, or more so than they intended. Because I can understand Superman's frustrations. I understand why Superman doesn't want to be around Superboy. I understand his frustration that someone had taken and used his essence without his consent. And I understand how that would be unsettling. But at the same time, I don't agree with how he's handling it, because even if it's unintentional on his part, he is kind of taking it out on Superboy, which Superboy couldn't help the fact that he came to exist. And I actually felt Bruce had a valid point that Clark should help Superboy figure out his abilities, because who better to help a Kryptonian than a fellow Kryptonian? But yeah, so my whole thing about the whole Superman situation is, I understand what they were trying to go for. I appreciate that they tried to recognize Superman isn't perfect. I just felt that the execution made Superman come off in more of a bad light than they intended, or Superman was more unsympathetic than they intended. So yeah, I can definitely see why people had issues with how Superman acted in season 1 of Young Justice, though I also understand what the crew members' intentions were. But that's the big thing about the episode was, yeah, talking about the Superman debate of Young Justice. Now, as for other things to talk about with this episode, well, the big thing is the arrow that helped out during the fight with Amazo. Now, like we said, while the Young Justice team think it was Speedy who helped them, Batman and Green Arrow look at each other indicates it wasn't Speedy. And if you've been paying attention to the opening theme of the Young Justice TV series, at least for season 1, you'll see that there's another Archer besides Green Arrow and Speedy. So, yeah, I think it's safe to say that, yeah, they were foreshadowing that particular Archer, and you'll get to meet that Archer soon. Sooner than you think, actually. And, oh, that's right. This episode also had Superboy express a hatred for monkeys. And that's something that was revealed in the tie-in comics. So, like I said, I'm considering discussing the tie-in comics as well as the episodes for Young Justice. So, yeah, Superboy, that's his running gag throughout season 1, is his hatred for monkeys. Like how Miss Martian will say, "Hello, Megan," or how Robin will take words apart. That's kind of like another running gag. And people have mixed thoughts about them. I've seen some people weren't fond of the running gags, but I don't personally mind them. I think, yeah, it adds a little more to the characters. So, there you go. I thought this was a good episode that focused on Superboy, addressed his anger issues, and did deal with the Superman crisis, but I felt Superman was more unsympathetic than they intended. And that's it for now. Take care, and until next time.